Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, gamers of all ages, welcome back to YouTube. My name is C-Raptor, and today we're going to talk one last time, what I hope is one last time, about the 2025 Galactic Championships for Star Wars Unlimited. We need to do a little bit of recap, a little bit of hot wash, a little bit of constructive criticism, and some feedback to Fantasy Flight about the event. And I've got a bit of a platform, and I was there, and I have some airing of grievances that we're going to do here. If you were an attendee, I would encourage you, if you have not already, to fill out the event survey. There's like a an attendee. Hey, tell us how we did, a feedback survey, right? There was a QR code floating around on the various tables and such. At the event, the big white tables, circular white tables you could sit and eat at or whatever. I'll post that in the video description. Please, 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 if you have not filled one of those out and you were at the event, please definitely go fill that out. Take the time. Let them know what they did right and let them know what you think they could improve on. Because at the end of the day, I'm going to be a little harsh at certain points of this video, but it comes from a place of wanting the game to succeed, wanting there to be more events like this, wanting these events to be more awesome, and there's absolutely room for improvement, and we got to talk about it, but that means we got to say some not nice things along the way. So if you have that kind of feedback, give it to them directly. I'll be filling one of those out this evening probably to get it done. It's been about a week, right? I've about a week. It's Sunday as I make this, Sunday evening here in the US, which means a week ago I was still fuming from standing in that ridiculous prize wall line on day 3. In fact, I think by this point I was probably in my hotel room checking out, watching the finals on YouTube. But we'll talk more about that in a minute. So let's do a little recap here, guys. I'm gonna couch this in the terms of the old Clint Eastwood film, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. But we're gonna flip things around a little bit, right? The first thing we're gonna talk about is the bad, because some of the good that comes later is a direct response to the bad. Like there were things wrong, and I have to praise the good things that happened because certain things were acted upon like mid-event, like things were getting corrected as they went bad. So that's good. The ugly we're going to spend a notable time on. This is this is really about the prize wall, and we're going to talk about as a project manager-ish, engineering manager in my career, I look at this as a series of cascading failures, right? A huge nod to Ian Malcolm, and we're gonna talk more about Ian Malcolm and Jurassic Park when we get there. But I think you have to analyze how this all went sideways to understand how to prevent it from happening again, like any good failure analysis. So we're gonna do some of that as we get there. But let's start with the bad. We're gonna be a little critical up front. Now, some of these are very small, but I'm going to mention them anyway. For starters, the side event lines closed way too early every day. When you went up to the sign-up area, there was big signs, posted behind the staff that were taking your side event tickets and registering you for events. Every single one of these signs said 7 p.m. was the cutoff point. They were not going to accept side event sign-ups after 7 p.m. on Friday and Saturday, which makes sense. The hall closes at 9. They have to be basically, you have to be out of the hall by 9, probably a hard stop by 10, but you've got to be shooing people out of the room by 9 p.m., which means that for a premiere pod, if you're going to play the full thing, if you're going to fire the pod, get everybody seated, fire the full thing, prize it out, etc., 2 hours to make sure that all of that happens, that's reasonable, okay? I thought that was reasonable. Here was my problem. This never happened, right? On day 1, they cut the line off at 5 p.m., 4 hours before the event hall closed. Now, they were doing this because they were having, we'll talk more about this in a minute, they were having such catastrophic problems firing events over the course of the day, certainly in the first 3 to 4 hours the hall was open, that I think they were afraid that the line was still going to be astronomical. But I went back to the table at 6:15 p.m. on Friday evening and was told, we're not running anything. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. I'm one of these people that's like, guys, I understand you have to make decisions on the fly and you have to adjust things. But like, if you're going to post this information everywhere, you need to stick to it, okay? You need to stick to it, in my opinion. But it got worse. Saturday during the day, right? They were cranking side events. I mean, blowing through them like crazy. I'll give you numbers in a little while. They still cut it off before the posted time. And I was like, what are we doing now, guys? I was so frustrated with some of the staffers. And it was like, guys, so I don't know who was making these decisions, but man, you got to do better. Like we got to do better next year. That's all I'm saying. Similar, right? The hall was split up into the collect and connect areas, okay, on one side of the room, and the compete area where all the games were being played. And there was an air wall. If you're familiar with convention centers, you know what I'm talking about when I say an air wall. A removable wall that could be put up between these two areas, because the compete area was all in Hall A at the Venetian, and Hall B was basically everything else. At 6 p.m. sharp, they would come around and put this air wall up and block off, half of the half of the event. That's really irritating to me, right? Like, I understand that the vendors don't want to be in there crazy late, but man, I feel like you need to do a better job. There were things over there that I would have taken advantage of later in the day had they been accessible. Okay, I'll give you an example. Over in that area was the designer challenges and the artist alley being closed. I get it; those guys want to have dinner in the evening and get it. But like the take and paint miniatures, the board games. There was an entire library of board games that you could go check out. All FFG, kind of Asmodee titles. I went over there. They had Heat. They had Imperial Assault. They probably had Outer Rim, which is one of my favorite board games. A great game. I would have loved to have been like, looked at my watch and be like, well, I don't have time to get another pot in. Let's go play a game. Let's go check out let's go get in a game of Outer Rim or something. But you can't, because they closed 3 hours before everything else. So you had this ridiculous compounding problem where they shut the lines off at 5 p.m. for side events, so you couldn't even sign up for side events anymore. And then the only other things to do in the venue were closed at 6 p.m. What am I paying for when you shut the whole thing in? And worst of all, that particular area contained the only place you could watch the live stream of the game on the stage, the game or games on stage in the event. And they closed it at 2 p.m. on Sunday. 2 p.m. So you've got a hall full of people who want to be watching what's going on stage, the playoffs, right? And they can't. They're all sitting in the room on their phone or their tablet doing this, squinting, and we'll get to this in a minute, but trying to keep up with the game that's literally happening 50 yards away because there's nowhere else to view it. Absolutely huge loss, huge miss. They've got to fix this. You had attendees helping these guys fix problems. I'm going to hit more about this later, but my buddy Ian from the podcast, you might have seen him on the Denver stream when we streamed the Denver PQ back in April, Denver SQ back in April. Ian basically stepped up and helped these guys fix stuff on day one. I mean, kudos to Ian, and kudos to the staffers for A, accepting the help, and B, taking care of him afterwards. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. But like, this should not happen. You should be proactive when you look out and see this stuff. As a streamer, as a content creator, I think it's a huge miss. Only the main event was streamed. Do you guys realize the very first trilogy format tournament in the world was played last weekend? Nobody saw it. Nobody's even talking about it. Brand new format. No hype. Nothing. I would have loved to have streamed that. I would have loved to have streamed the Galactic Open, right? You had basically what amounted to a sector qualifier happening on Saturday and Sunday. Nobody saw it. Some people came, they played, they won, they got some points. We have no idea what they played, no idea how good the games were, nothing. This makes me sad, right? You got more than just the main event going on in the room. Don't just fixate on the one thing. So either do it yourself or let us do it. I don't know. Anyway, frustration. The stream overlays. I feel like I have a little bit of room to talk in this area. Right? As somebody who streams the game competitively and has spent a lot of time trying to spend time on making it look good and make it visible, because at the end of the day, if you're watching, it's a visible format, right? The viewing area of the play area was way, way too small, okay? I sat down and took a screen cap off the day 3 stream and kind of took a box and started to size it. The playing area was on the screen was about 700 pixels square, right? Roughly. Whereas when I sat down to design my overlay, like, okay, I'm going to showcase the game. What's my first premise? I have 1080 to play with on, top to bottom. The play area is square. We're going 1080 wide. I don't want people to be squinting at the game. You're here to watch the game. If they can't see the game, why are they here? You gotta fix that, guys. It's the most fundamental thing that people want to see. They want to see the board, right? And on top of that, I don't mention this in the notes here, but like they're using the official tokens. They're so tiny. They're so tiny. Guys, we use streamer tokens for a reason. Either make some of your own or go to GameGenic and get them to make some just for you for this event. I don't know. But those little tiny official tokens on a regular on a camera are way too small for most of us. I mean, we use the oversized streamer stuff by design for a reason. I have a personal beef with the hand info, okay? If you watch any of the stream, you know that on either side of the screen, big long lists of cards. And there's what I was told is that this is a system that's been used for Magic and Pokemon and other games. I don't know, guys. I don't watch those on YouTube or whatever. I've never seen any of that stuff. But apparently there's a guy sitting behind the player on stage with a tablet and marks off the cards as he draws them. He can see and knows what they are and marks them. Okay, so you have this constant live update of what each player has in their hand. This is a twofold problem for me. One is that eats up way too much of the available screen space, okay? Because I can't... The cards in hand is nice to information, right? It's nice to have. I don't need it. It's nice to know, but it's not making or breaking anything. I want to know what the board state is. That's where the game is being won or lost. But in my opinion, having perfect information about their hands also detracts as a caster, as a viewer. Where's the big surprise plays? You'll always see it coming. How many times have we cast a game and players either playing with their hand over, off camera, or they're flipping their cards so quick we can't quite tell, and we'll say, look, he might have it. He might have the surprise strike he needs to end the game, and if he does, bam, that's a big moment, right? Yeah, he's got it. Good, he's got it. Back to the wall. He had the card he needed. Well done, great game. But you have perfect information about these guys' hands at all times. As a caster, I hate that. Now, if I was the guys doing the commentary, I would like that information because but I don't want it on the screen. I want it on a monitor where I can see it. Then we can talk about it. Oh, he's got this in his hand. But then when you see a play like that coming, you don't talk about it. You don't mention it. You mention it might be possible. Well, he could have just drawn the surprise strike. We're not sure. Or we don't know. You figure out a way to phrase it. And then when it happens, bam, it's a big deal. Oh, the crowd goes wild. He's got it, right? But it's a huge miss in my mind. There were scheduled events that didn't happen, right? Where was the opening ceremony? I was in the room at 9:45 on Friday morning, and at 10 o'clock or so, Xander, God bless him, came out with a microphone and went, basically, well, we're all glad you're here, let's go, and walked off the stage. What? That was how you started your first Galactic Championship? You had it on the schedule, opening ceremony, 9:45. Nothing happened. It was really weird. What happened there? And then the very last event that I really wanted to go to, there was a content creator panel scheduled at 4 o'clock on Sunday or something. Just canceled. No announcement. You had to go to the website to discover that it had been... I only found out 2 hours in advance it had been canceled. There were probably people that went down there to go to the panel. It didn't happen. I'm used to seeing panels shift and change at big cons. Like when I go to Dragon Con, stuff moves around, whatever. But at a con like this, there's only, 30,000, maybe 3,500 attendees? Why are we canceling stuff? Why is stuff not happening? That was really frustrating. With all that said, let's talk about the good, because there's plenty to talk about. The venue is amazing. The Venetian, this is my first time to Vegas, guys. The Venetian is gorgeous. It's fairly easy to navigate, in my opinion. Some people felt like it was a little too big. From my room in the Palazzo Tower to the convention floor was probably about an 8 to 10 minute walk, depending on how brisk I wanted to walk it, right? Tons of food options. It's not the cheapest food, but you have plenty of choices. Let's put it that way. And just rooms are very, very nice. They're very spacious. I've stayed in a lot of hotel rooms, way worse than this for cons. And I think going back there in 2026 is a huge win. So the Venetian is a great venue. I'm glad they're going back. I thought the staging was really good. You got a glimpse of this on some of the streams. The staging, the way they had it organized. The company they hired to do all the visual production, build the staging, did a really, really good job. It felt big. It felt epic. It felt like, a championship event. That was really cool. I thought the stream commentary was really good. I had a lot of people ask me, because for obvious reasons, all the tournament work that I've done, what did you think? And for my money, I haven't watched all, 12 hours of every day, but I thought they were great. I thought Doa Charmer and Main Deck Dan did a great job. There were no major misses. There were occasional flubs. There were occasional times you missed things. Guys, trust me, okay? I have called dozens and dozens of games now. I'm probably going to call hundreds more over the course of what I hope is a long career doing this for Unlimited. You're going to make mistakes. You can't crucify these guys, okay? You just can't. Because in their chair, you would also make mistakes because we're all human, okay? But in the end, I thought they did a great job with it. I didn't have any real beefs. I was glad. I was glad to see that FFG took care of this, and the end result was worth it. The attendees, guys, it was amazing being on the floor for me all 3 days. I don't consider myself a big creator in this space, right? I've done some big tournaments that have gotten a lot of visibility, but it felt like Cheers. Everybody knows your name. I felt like I couldn't go like 30 feet without somebody, hey, and shaking my hand and thanking me for the tournament coverage and the other videos and stuff that we've done. A lot of folks really were very thankful for the side event video, the planning and how do we strategize this whole thing. I had made some little poker chips with my logo. I gave those out to basically anybody who stopped me to say thanks and shake my hand. And if you were one of those people, thank you. That really made my weekend. It was honestly a little weird. I've been doing big World of Warship stuff for a long time, almost a decade, right? And over there, I'd argue that I'm possibly even better known in that community. But they don't do events like this. Like the biggest warships, like in-person event I've ever been to is probably 200-300 people. And in that room, sure, people know who you are. And they come up and they say hi and they shake your hand. This was completely different. Again, just constantly being stopped and thanked. I'd be standing having a conversation with somebody and 2 other people would come and like wait till I had a break just to give me a fist bump. Moments like that make a content creator's day. If you did that for me or any other content creator you met at the event, kudos to you, because that is a big deal. The judge staff were fabulous, guys. They were under such tremendous pressure, and they were constantly being shifted around. And I know this because I've met a lot of great judges working the big events, the regionals and sectors and planetary qualifiers that I've worked. You see a lot of the same faces over and over. You get to know people. So I knew a lot of these folks and spoke to them off and on over the course of the weekend. They were hopping, right? They were constantly getting moved around. And that was really, really, really awesome. Fabulous people. I didn't meet a single judge that made me go, oh, I wish you weren't here, right? Like they're just, to a man, so many great people. And a huge shout out to the aforementioned judge staff and just the overall event staff, because they were honestly making some of this up on the go, right? It felt like Fantasy Flight did not grasp how popular side events were going to be, and that portion of the con was very understaffed originally. They adapted very well on day 2, and they continued to adapt on day 3 as needed. So kudos to those guys for shifting resources, right? Taking people who were originally scheduled, I'm going to be working the Galactic. I talked to at least one judge friend of mine who's like, well, I was supposed to be working the Galactic Open today, but they need me over here, so I'm working side events all day. Like, as a judge, that might be a little frustrating. As an attendee, that's exactly the kind of thing I want to hear. The need is greater over here. We're allocating resources where the need is greatest. That's awesome. To give you an idea, guys, on day 1, let me back it all the way up at the beginning. Within the first 2 hours of the convention, right? Let's say, so by noon on Friday, these guys, the side event staff had run 7 events. 7 total in 2 full hours. They were trying to use Melee to sign people up, and then they were handing out these little digital puck, these little, like you go to a restaurant to get the little vibrating puck, right? You go to a puck. This is, congratulations, you're signed up for the event. When this buzzes, come on back and go over here. Absolute catastrophe, disaster, okay? By the end of day 1, they had abandoned all of that. They were doing traditional signups on paper, and they had run nearly 400 side events. Now, that still doesn't sound amazing, but for my money, that's an amazing recovery to trying to adapt to a system that you probably didn't ask for. Like, I don't know who planned that system, but the people executing it at the ground level wasn't their idea. They were doing what they'd been hired to do and told to do. And partway through, they were like, boss, this isn't working. We're changing it. And they did. On day 2, they ran almost 2,300 side events, nearly 6 times as many. So yeah, huge adaptations there. And kudos to them. Kudos to all the staff that made that happen. So well done to you. But now we got to talk about the ugly. And to me, the ugly is just boils down to the gross mismanagement of the prize wall situation. Now, earlier I talked about Ian Malcolm. If you're not familiar with Michael Crichton's novel Jurassic Park, and I'm not talking about the film doesn't really get into this, okay? The novel Jurassic Park is broken up into sections, seven distinct sections, each one of which is prefaced with a little quote from Ian Malcolm, of course, a fictitious quote, discussing chaos theory, talking about how with each subsequent iteration of a complex system, right, more and more flaws. The flaws begin to stack and compound, basically, is kind of his point. To the point that by the time you're down to the fifth, the sixth, the seventh iteration, the whole thing is in total collapse and recovery is simply no longer achievable. I'm gonna really belabor that analogy over the course of this next conversation because I think it applies. I was having this conversation on Discord literally during the event with somebody on the KTOD Discord, and he kind of mentioned, he kind of structured his discussion this way, and I had already been thinking along those lines, and I went, I'm stealing this, and so we're going with it. So the earliest mistake for the prize wall, and nobody knew it at the time, was there was no limit on what you could get, okay? No limit on what you can get. And what's so baffling about this is there were limits on other things, right? I could only get one convention exclusive per day. In fact, I think you could only get one for the entire weekend. I didn't try after I got my little droid box for the 2025 con exclusive, but my expectation was if I had gone in and tried to get it again, it would have been like, nope, sorry, you already got one. So they have the technology. The front of every single person's badge had a QR code on it they could scan. When you would go for the PIN passport thing, they would scan it, right? And know that you had picked up that PIN. Now, from what I've heard, that might not necessarily have prevented you from picking up a second copy of the same PIN. But the point is, the technology existed on the existing badges to have a way for you to scan this. So no limits on prize wall loot was the first step. But nobody realized it at the time, right? I'm sure FFG thought, man, we've printed so much, we're going to be throwing this stuff away or burning it when we're done, right? But in the end, that was not even remotely the case. The second kind of thing that starts down this eventual failure cascade is the missing side event tickets. I went to pick up my badge on Thursday about 4:30 or 5 o'clock. Okay, I had a VIP badge for myself. My wife, Ginger, had a premium badge. So all in, I should have had 20 side event tickets. She should have had 10. We received 0. They had none. In fact, from the people who picked up their badges earlier in the day, the folks who were there within the first hour, I gathered most of them had received their side event tickets. But very clearly, by probably 1:30 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, they had no more to give out. This is absolutely inexplicable to me, right? I don't understand how you don't have enough side event tickets for the people who registered for badges that come with them and or purchased them in advance. Because when you signed up to purchase a badge, one of the add-ons you could get was, I'm going to buy more side event tickets, right? I literally stood in line for, an hour and a half on Friday morning waiting to sign up for a pod with next to a gentleman from the Northeast, a store owner from, I think he said he was from Vermont. And he was like, yeah, I bought 30 side event tickets with my badge because they told me it would save me time. And we're standing in a line for nearly 2 hours. So they didn't physically have enough tickets. Now, I heard several different rumors as to why this was. I heard that there was a pallet, they shipped all these pallets from the home office back in Minneapolis, I'm sure. One of those pallets had gotten lost, had been delayed, whatever. I heard that whoever who had ordered tickets to be printed had left a 0 off the invoice. Who knows? It doesn't matter how we got to this point. But this was the second step in the eventual failure cascade, right? There were not enough side event tickets to go around. And so people came into the event on Friday morning, some of us, with 0 event tickets in hand. Further compounding things, and we've alluded to this already, was the terrible way side events were being managed on day one. Trying to get a side event in within the first few hours of day one was an exercise in futility. The line was insane. There were probably, I would guess, anywhere from 500 to 700 people in line at one point. It was nuts. I stood in line, I think, an hour and 45 minutes or so on Friday morning just to sign up for a premiere pod. I got in line at 10:40. That sounds about right, maybe? I think it was 10:40. And I did this because I told myself I didn't want to stand in line at all. I didn't think I should have to, but just because, how bad are you managing this that I have to stand in this ridiculous line? But then I told myself, no, Let me go do this once so that I know how long it took me, and then I can complain about it later. I spent X number of hours in line. It sounds ridiculous, but that was my thought process at the time. After we'd been in line about an hour and a half, though, an amazing thing began to occur. The line began to move. And what was happening was, again, my buddy Ian had started organizing people by what they wanted to play. As you possibly recall from my earlier videos, there were 4 or 5 different types of side events, right? I could play Premier, I could play Twin Suns, I could play Draft, I could play Sealed, whatever. I could play Win-A-Box. Everybody who wanted to play was all in one big single line. They weren't organized by what type of event they wanted to sign up for. And they didn't have enough people signing up. There were like 4 people manning 2 computers to sign up hundreds and hundreds of people. It was not happening. So finally, they got away from the computers. They staffed up to increase how quickly they could sign people up, and then they began. Ian, God bless him, came through and literally walked down this line of hundreds of people. What do you want to play? Great, stand over here. Premier up against the wall. Draft over there. Win-A-Box up there behind the guy with the purple backpack or whatever, right? And just organized people so that the guys at the front of the line, the actual staffers, could move those folks into a sign-up line, take their money. They were finally, and they also made this other adaptation, kudos. They were just taking cash for side events on day one. But they had no side event tickets to sell, so they were basically like, bring your card, whatever, we'll swipe your card, and you can pay for your side event that way. So that finally allowed people to start, the lines to start flowing. So, again, the recovery was passable. The bigger problem here, though, is that, like, some of us, myself, had garbage returns for the time invested on day one, right? I played 2 Premier Pods on day one. 9 hours in the hall, I played 5 games. 5. That was it. That's all I got in. It was ridiculous. However, there were people manning the side event staff that were allowing things to occur that you wouldn't normally have figured. I'll give you an example. I'll give you 2 examples. One was, I know some folks were allowed to sign up for a pod, fill out their paperwork, go sit down, play. When the judge would come around to prize out the pod, right, to hand out the sidewall tickets to the eventual winners or whatever, the prize tickets to the winners, some of them were just handing him more side tickets and going again, right? Pay him out, pay the judge, he goes back to the table, hands him to the right person, those guys play again, get prized out again. No waiting in line, right? Some people, the judges wouldn't allow that. You had to get up and go get in line and wait in line again to sign up for another pod. Some people just got fortunate. They hit the lottery with the judge. They could just stay. Some people were allowed to pay multiple times to play once. So I paid for 4 Win-A-Box pods, but I only played 1, and I got prized out 4 times. Some folks had judges that were letting them do that on day 1 and day 2. I never ran into one of these people. I lost that particular lottery, so my returns on day 1 were pretty meager by comparison. But we're not done yet. Because on Friday, they were scrambling to try to get actual physical side event tickets so they could at least supply side event tickets to the badge holders who still had not received theirs yet. So they began to offer side event tickets in exchange, offer prize wall tickets in exchange for side event tickets. This is a very, very dangerous thing. So on Friday, the rumor began to spread. If you walked up and you gave the guys, you walked to the prize wall, you handed them 3 side event tickets, physical cardboard side event tickets, they would hand you back 400 prize wall tickets. This is the same as just buying prize wall tickets. The only thing that kept this in check on Friday is there weren't enough side event tickets in circulation for it to be a big problem, okay? Now, I admit, I took advantage of this, okay, because I was so pissed and frustrated with the lines that I was dealing with. I was like, I'm going to go get something for my day. And I did this. I think I cashed in and got 1,600 tickets back. So I got a little bit of something. But it's not the most efficient use of those side event tickets, right? I could have done better if I had been allowed to play the game that I wanted to come play. They quit doing this on Saturday. Or they supposedly quit doing this on Saturday. So during the day on Saturday, you couldn't do this anymore. The 3 for 400 thing ended. However, there was a sign. There were many signs posted all around the prize wall table saying, starting on Sunday, we're going to let you exchange 1 side event ticket for 100 prize wall tickets straight up. So literally now, you can spend $5 and get 100 prize wall tickets in a direct exchange, but only on Sunday. Except they even broke that rule because I know from talking to people that late in the day on Saturday, they started doing this. The goalpost moved so many times on how the prize wall was managed or mismanaged, it absolutely boggles the mind. And then, of course, starting first thing Sunday, we just threw all the rules out the window. I heard rumors that there was a guy who had gone through basically ground tickets all Friday and Saturday with his goal to literally just buy every Super Laser Blast that was available. And sure enough, by lunchtime Saturday, SLBs were gone. Most of the Vaders were gone late on Saturday. It was an absolute train wreck. And then first thing Sunday morning, people came in, and I did not witness this, but I have been told, I have heard people walked over to the side event, ticket dropped anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000, whatever, walked over to the prize wall booth redemption area, and just started buying, trading straight up cash. And so now, as a player at an event that I've paid to attend to play your game, I am being actively penalized for playing your game. What a disaster. What an absolute train wreck. We're here to play the game. We want to play. Yeah, we want to get some shiny cardboard loot for our trouble, but I'm here to play. And now I'm being told, uh-oh, you played the game, now you got screwed. And that's exactly what happened. But wait, there's more. We aren't done yet, kids. Because, of course, all of the previous issues led to shortages of damn near everything. Super Laser Blasts were gone early. Vader Showcases, I was told, were basically gone by Saturday night. 12:30 on Sunday, they came on the PA and said Shinhati was gone, Mace was gone, Silver Packs were gone. Silver Packs were gone. Silver Packs were gone. So at that point, I hung it up. I was like, I'm done with this. I still had side event tickets in my hand. I wanted to play the game. I wanted to keep playing. Nope. No point now. There's literally no point. So I got up and went and stood in the prize wall line for 2 hours and 45 minutes. And by the time I got to the front, my rubles weren't really worth spending anything on. They didn't have any bread for me to spend my rubles on. Because the prize wall tickets are only valuable at the prize wall. And if there's nothing to spend them on, well, you just feel robbed. And I felt pretty bloody robbed. And I was not the only one. And so, of course, now here we are at the end. Total collapse in my mind. FFG is fortunate that this whole prize wall thing did not cause a riot, that there was not a physical altercation as a result of all of this. They should count their lucky stars that there was not like a fist fight on the floor. It's been a week, right, since all this went down. And even now, when I watch videos of people opening silver packs, all the cool loot they got at the GC, I feel cheated. I feel cheated. And it part of me, that reaction is so visceral. Part of it bothers me that I have it. And part of me is just like, nope, you kind of were. You kind of were. Because you played the game. You went to play the game, and guess what? You got hosed. Well done. Well done. Anyways, we got to do better next year. How can we do that? All right. So I'm going to give you some ideas from me. I want you guys to come into the comments and give me your ideas. I want to know what you think needs to improve for 2026, and make sure you go fill out the survey that's linked in the video description. Okay, for starters, we got to have limits on the prize wall, guys, at least for the first couple of days. This is not rocket surgery, right? The fact that we're accepting straight cash for prize wall stuff blows my ever-loving mind. Why even have the entire side event system if you're just going to take cash for stuff on the prize wall? Then just do that. But for God's sakes, limit it, right? I heard a rumor. I do not know if this is true or somebody just talking out of their butt, guys. But I heard a rumor that one of the vendors in the room walked over with a pile of cash on Sunday morning and just bought up a whole bunch of stuff. Now, if that's true, then, well, that pisses me off. Kudos to their capitalist instincts. I'll give them that. But as a player, I just got screwed, right? What happened there? You got to put limits on these things, guys. At least for the first 2 days. There needs to be enough loot for people still playing and gathering tickets on day 3 for there to be something to worth getting. Now, I do feel like there needs to be a point on day 3 at which we say, okay, limits are gone. Whatever's left, it's fire sale. We don't. I mean, they printed all the stuff to get rid of. They don't want to haul it home. I get that. Fire sale, okay? But at a minimum, there's got to be limits on certain things. We know they could scan the QR codes on the badges. Maybe tie it to that. I don't know. Figure it out, guys. You're a smart company. You've got a lot of money behind you. Figure it out. But this needs to happen. We need to have a dedicated viewing area for the main event, okay? We kind of did on day 1 and 2, but we at least have to have it for the playoffs. When playoffs came, everybody's sitting there like watching on their phone or whatever. That's terrible. That's terrible. You had rooms on the lower level. Set up a couple of TVs. Open a bar, right? Make it an event. I was at the GC partying, hanging out with my favorite content creator as we cheered on so-and-so in the semifinals. You know, whatever. Make it an event. Make it a big deal. And I mentioned this earlier. You got to cover side events, guys. You got big enough events there. And if you don't want to do it, let us come do it. And if you don't want us to do it yourselves, right? Set up more than one stream. Figure it out. You're a big company, but you've got all of this happening to only show a fraction of it. You're doing the game and yourselves a disservice. Consistent application of guidelines for side events, right? If we're going to post a 7 p.m. line, cut off for the line, hold the 7 p.m. unless, hold it, okay? And if it doesn't work, then adjust. But don't presume it's not going to work or arbitrarily move it up by 2 hours. That was infuriating. And this whole idea of some people would let you buy multiple entries and then let you play once and pay you out multiple entries, and some people wouldn't, is insane, right? Because it meant that some of us who were trying to have a productive day 1 for side event tickets got hosed because we just didn't magically meet up with the right judge. Yeah. When do all these things occur? I don't know. And maybe with the event time, right? They talked about 7 p.m. being the close of the side event line. That's probably too late for draft and sealed events, right? You probably need to say 6 p.m. I'm just picking a number. Some point is the cutoff line for sealed and draft, and then some other number is the cutoff line for Twin Suns, Win-A-Box, and Premier, right? Because there's no reason that events that only take 60 minutes to play the entire event out should cut off 4 hours before people have to leave the venue. Absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. Guys, I want to know what you think, okay? Did you go to the GC? What was your experience? Talk to me, right? And make sure you fill out the survey. Please, please, please go fill out the survey. I had a great time. It sounds like I didn't. Honestly, I'd give the whole experience a solid B. I had a pretty good time. Meeting everybody was fabulous. I got so many compliments, which felt really good, you guys. Thank you. But the prize wall thing was such a sour note. I have local players that are like, man, I don't even know that I want to keep playing this game just because of how badly they mismanaged the prize wall. Now, you might think that's ridiculous, but I think that's a valid frustration after spending thousands of dollars to attend this event and getting screwed that hard. That feels bad. That feels really bad. So I sympathize. Anyway, guys, let's stop talking about 2025. Let's stop talking about the GC for this year. Let's start looking forward to the GC for next year. Season 1 is here. We've got PQs and SQs to cover. I'll have some announcements soon on my schedule for all of that. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you being here. And I'll catch you next time.